Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome to the bonus show. Let's talk first about Kenya or Kenya. It sounds like Cartman saying it when you say Kenya.
I know. I was kind of kidding on the regular show. I actually do hear people say Kenya, but I've never heard anyone that I completely trust say Kenya.
Right. And I think just from what I've watched on the news, TV, movies, documentaries, it seems like, at least from what I recall, that Kenyans even call it Kenya. But I could be wrong. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just thinking of other countries. Anyway, the president has just signed into law a controversial marriage bill that legalizes polygamy. They're allowing for it now. And on top of that, there's an amendment that allows men to take more wives without consulting existing spouses.
Well, that's the thing. The law can't require you to consult with them, right? I mean, in the same way that the law can't require you to get your spouse's parents' blessing before marrying them. So I'm not surprised.
Well, no, it could. I mean, I think it could.
It would be ridiculous, though, is I guess the point I'm trying to make, because how do you enforce something like that?
I don't know. It could be enforced. I mean, I think especially when you still have financial ties, legal financial ties in marriage. I don't know. It just sounds like things could get really, really complicated. But obviously, a lot of people are very upset about this. A lot of women in office, I guess, walked out of Parliament after this was voted through that amendment anyway. I mean, initially, of course, the point of this was to allow for cultures who did this traditionally to keep doing it and to do it legally. The amendment, on the other hand, I guess, is what upsetted most people.
I actually don't have a problem with a country doing this if this is what they want to do. But if you allow multiple wives, it seems you should allow multiple husbands also, right? That would be my stipulation. If the country wants to do this, by all means, go right ahead. But make it flow both ways. And I'm sure that their the cultural elements that want this were only multiple wife situations, and that's why we're not seeing both.
Right. So this is what's going on in Kenya, and yeah, it's quite the scene.
What's your view on this, Lewis? I mean, forgetting for a second the moral and legal implications, there are a couple reality shows in the U.S. now that follow polygamous families where there are a bunch of wives. They call themselves sister wives. Is that lifestyle at all appealing to you? Because when I think about it, there's this idea in some men's minds that it would be great to have different women that are in your life and that you have sex with different women. But most people who have that fantasy are not looking to be in a marriage with each of those women and with all of those responsibilities, right? I mean, most men who want to be with multiple women may not be interested in marriage at all, or may be interested in having one wife and then just having mistresses. So it's not even actually that, some people idealize it in a way.
I think so. I think the only situation in which it would be at all civil and palatable would be if, let's say, you have two wives, if they are also in love with each other, and it's this, I just don't see otherwise how they could maintain their sanity.
So a true three-way relationship, right, is what you're suggesting. And it could be two men and a woman, or two women and a man, or whatever.
I see that working much better than you having a wife that lives next to you, or one that lives in this house, one that lives in this house, and you're kind of shuffling between the two. That just seems like a recipe for disaster. But if those women were raised in families where this was the norm, I don't know. Maybe it would just it would be a bit more natural. But to me, it sounds like a disaster. That's my opinion. All right. The pig virus. We haven't talked about this on the show. I think it might come to the point where we will have to. It's kind of a big deal right now. There is a new virus called the PED virus. That
Performance
has
enhancing drug virus, is that what it stands for?
what?
Performance enhancing drugs?
No, no, much worse than that. It stands for porcine epidemic diarrhea virus, and does not sound like a pleasant way to go. Pork prices have gone up because of this. How many pigs have died? Well, I believe it is in the millions. An estimated 7 million pigs have died since June of 2013 as a result of this virus. And they say that it is transferred through the pig feces, I guess. And they're saying that a very small amount of the stuff, of the poop, if you will, infected poop, would be enough to contaminate the entire U.S. Population of
Now,
pigs.
let me ask you this, Lewis. Could trace elements could trace amounts of pig feces in bacon or pork loins or pig meat, could that also get people sick?
I don't know. I don't know if this is if this can be transferred to humans, but knowing the history of pig viruses, it seems that pig viruses in humans, there tends to be a connection there, more so than with other animal viruses. So I am a little worried about it. I try not to eat pork. I know you don't. You don't eat pork. Occasionally, though, right?
I have not eaten pork now for close to 2 years. I mean, I'm doing pretty well. I think I'm off of it at this point completely. The other day I was at a brunch place and someone at the next table had a side of bacon. It did smell pretty good, but then when I think about the diseases that pigs carry and the fact that they're basically eating an animal that's as smart as a dog, I instantly lose my appetite for bacon.
So you're telling me that you have never had anything in 2 years that even had bacon as an ingredient? You're
Listen,
positive
in the same way that if you ask a vegetarian, are you sure you haven't had chicken broth in the last 5 years? And they say, listen, I ask when it's a soup. I'm generally aware of where it might be. I don't think I have. I mean, I don't think I have. I have been in situations where I will say, oh, does, sometimes lobster bisque has bacon in it. Or sometimes they just have some bacon fat that they cook in. Once I asked and they said, yeah, it does have bacon fat in it. And I said, I'm not going to be having that. I don't think I have. To my knowledge, I have had absolutely no pork or pig products for close to 2 years now.
All right. Anyway, back to the virus. People are still not sure how it entered the United States, where it came from, although they say it is very similar to that virus we talked about that killed lots of pigs in China a little while ago. So there it is. It really is a huge deal. 7 million pigs dead, and I'm sure many more to come. But hopefully this comes and goes. We will see what happens. Personally, I do not want to die of porcine epidemic diarrhea. Pretty crazy. Let's talk about Atari. Atari, now I don't know if Atari is still creating games. I think they might still be a company that is somehow involved in the game industry. But I can't say for sure. I should have looked it up before talking about this. But anyway, as I'm sure everyone knows, Atari had its day in the sun. They used to be huge. And for many, many years, there was a rumor going around that Atari dumped like thousands of copies of their games somewhere out in the desert. A lot of people just thought it was a myth. Turns out it's true. And some of them have just been uncovered. A 3-hour dig at a landfill site turned up many Atari cartridges, many of which were the game E.T., like the movie E.T., the extraterrestrial. They made millions of copies of the game, but I guess it sold incredibly poorly. And I guess it was just the shittiest game of all time. It was hastily produced. This is the case with a lot of games that are based off of movies. They tend to mostly be shit because they are rushed. and they're kind of just like a cash grab.
Yeah, they want to get in. They want to get the game to market when they're still riding the wave of the movie's popularity, and then it leads to just a poorly planned game.
Right. Occasionally, there are some gems here and there. Some of those more recent Spider-Man games, well, it was probably like 10 years ago, but those are good. And for some reason, that Chronicles of Riddick game was really good. But yeah, they're mostly shit. And this was the case with E.T. And I guess they dumped truckloads of unsold games in this landfill site. And as the company was kind of winding down. But I don't understand why you would ever do that. I mean, why does it have to come to that? I mean, even if you sell them for an incredibly discounted price, like how does it come to dumping millions of copies of a game?
Yeah, I don't understand. This is kind of like the marginal benefit. So, okay, sometimes if this is behavioral economics, right? Sometimes when, let's say you go to a movie and you've paid for the ticket and the movie's terrible, right? And you say, well, I'm just going to stay because I already paid for the ticket. A rational economic analysis would say, if you are going to get no additional enjoyment from staying, you've paid the money either way. If you would enjoy the next hour outside of the movie theater instead of inside of the movie, you should get up and leave even though you've already bought the ticket, because you're going to get nothing additional from staying. With these games, you would think if they can sell them for anything, it's better than not selling them at all. You're recovering some of the money. But maybe what we're ignoring is that there might be some kind of like negative marketing or public relations connotation to not taking these games off the shelves or something like that's figuring into the equation.
I guess something, yeah. It would have to be something like that. Or maybe they were in such financial distress that there was just no way for them to even deal with this large amount of games. I don't know. I mean, you still would have had to have them distributed, and who knows. Some of them, I guess, were even in their original packaging, which makes it even stranger if you ask me, as opposed to unpackaged games. I mean, packaging costs money. But yeah, they were uncovered. I mean, only a small amount of material could be recovered from the dump because the people digging this up were only allowed access for one day. But there it is, the mystery of the Atari game dump.
I know a lot of people were waiting for like decades to figure out what happened with those games.
Literally decades. And 30 years, 30, 40 years. Anyway, now we know. I never played an Atari console, but I know at least for a while they were still involved in making games, and they still made some pretty good games post their console years. But there it is. I love to throw in a video game story now and then. Let us know if you ever played E.T. on Atari, and tell us if it was as big a piece of shit as they say it is. Then again, if any of us played an Atari game now, we would probably be bored after 2-3 minutes, because let's face it, that's just the nature of,
maybe so, but
gaming.
I have a Super Nintendo emulator on my laptop, and on trips or whenever, I'll sometimes just play Super Mario World, and I still find it to have so much replay value. Every time I play it, I think it's fun. Right.
But that is like so much more advanced than Atari was,
Yeah.
Nintendo, even regular like 8-bit Nintendo, I think was vastly superior. But anyway, yeah, those emulators are good stuff. I have all of those on my computer too, and I still find that plenty of Super Nintendo, Genesis, lots of those games are still fun as hell.
Thank you. Hey, so let's just do. We're officially announcing it Thursday, May 1st on the regular show. But next week, 5 days a week starts. So very exciting stuff. What I'm asking from you, our membership, is to send in the questions that you want us to include in the expanded audience questions segment. Instead of just playing a couple voicemails at the very end of the show, we're going to take, depending on timing, 2 or 3 audience questions. They could be voicemails, or they could be written email questions, and actually answer them in more detail, like make a story out of them. Start sending them to us so we can start preparing.
Right. And it's okay if it's a follow-up question to a story that we covered the previous day or even the day before that, during the week in general, I guess. Those are good too. I mean, if people have follow-up questions or if there's something we didn't address that's interesting about a story, well, it might be important to address that. So let us know. And of course, keep sending me stories for the bonus show. They are always useful and helpful and make my job easier.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.